Hello and welcome to Eyewitness Report on Channels Television. I am Chris Ilams. Today on the program, we'll begin with Nigeria's quest to plug infrastructure deficits in the face of dwindling resources. Also, pipeline vandals struck at K Farms Estate in Iju, Lagos. Residents are apprehensive. Join us for these and more on Eyewitness Reports. Nigeria is set to require as much as $15 billion annually to finance infrastructure development and bridge the yawning gap that characterized the sector owing to a prolonged period of neglect. Against this backdrop, experts are advocating a shift to private sector participation, which can only become a reality with the right environment. The quality of infrastructure such as road, rail, airport, seaport, hospitals, schools, communication and housing come to play when nations are ranked on development. The reason is not far-fetched. Good infrastructure translates to a better life and well-being, efficiency in business transactions and economic growth. According to the World Economic Forum, Hong Kong has one of the most developed infrastructure, followed by Singapore, which not only inherited good infrastructure from its colonial masters, but made efforts to keep developing them through a well-thought-out funding process which gave priority to capital expenditure. However, in most developed nations such as Nigeria, the case appears turned on its head.
Apart from the fact that we haven't met investment with growth in population, there are serious governance capacity also involved. And that you can see, we can talk about that at several levels. When you talk of governance capacity, the ability to design a program, the ability to implement the program, the ability to monitor it successfully, and ensure that what you budget money for is spent. That had been, for me, one of the greatest failings of infrastructure in our country.
Nigeria, in its early days, had over 3,000 kilometers of rail network, which dwindled to a few hundred meters due to neglect. This is now costing the federal government several billions of dollars to resuscitate, with construction recently completed on the Abuja, Kaduna, Warri Itakwe rail lines and other ongoing constructions on the Lagos-Ibadan-Kano rail network.
In the next 2 to 3 years, we will see how much we would have tried to complete the Ibadan to Kano. The more we complete, the more we're able to move these cargoes out of the road so that we can save the roads. Similarly, the same will happen in the area of Port Harcourt to Maiduguri. In fact, I remember that somebody said it has capacity for 11 million tons. Again, what we are doing from Port Harcourt to Maiduguri has capacity for hundreds and hundreds of tons of cargoes. But for now, what cargoes that go between Port Harcourt and Maiduguri is about 11 million tons after the study that we did.
With over 90% of human and cargo movement concentrated on road transportation, increased pressure has turned Nigeria roads to some of the worst and deadliest in the world, according to the United Nations Development Programme. Efforts to change the narrative appear on track.
And if you've been following my ministry, you will see that we have something called the Highway Development Management Initiative, which is to offer about 12 roads, totaling about 1,920 kilometers for concession, possible tolling, ambulance service, tow trucks, lane marking, and toll plazas. But this is a work in progress. But right now, the work of today, as mandated by the president, is go and continue to build as much infrastructure as you can to bring relief to Nigerians.
While Nigeria is set to require about $15 billion annually to bridge the infrastructure gap, the amount budgeted in 2020 for works, housing, transportation and power was about 612 billion naira, which is less than $2 billion.
Even if oil price goes to above 100, still it will no longer be enough to provide us with sufficient infrastructure. doesn't give us enough to fill the gap that you mentioned. So we cannot fill that deficit as it were. So now it became a compelling need for the government to find alternative sources. Now, because the private sector has not been part of the show all this while, so it's been government all through. Government allocated resources, government sold the resources and took control of the revenue. So it wasn't, this wasn't a private sector driven economy, okay? But now we need to diversify the economy, but to do that, we need infrastructure. But unfortunately, government no longer has the resources to do that. And because old habit dies hard, government also has found it very difficult to also relinquish its hold on the economy to create the necessary incentive to allow private sector players to support its infrastructure drive. And that is why PPP has just remained only but rhetoric over the years.
The situation is made worse by plummeting oil prices, notwithstanding the various measures put in place, including the sovereign intervention funds, infrastructure banks. Finance and infrastructure experts say government must begin to look elsewhere for solutions.
What the government can do is to provide the environment to bring non-public sector resources, to bring pure private sector resources into infrastructure. And that's the additionality that can make a lot of difference in infrastructure development. And what the government can do to make that happen is to have clear regulatory environment that will guide private sector investments in infrastructure. So if you have clear rules, clear regulations, a body of law, a body of incentives, all of those are what has unlocked private sector investment in infrastructure in a lot of other countries.
Economic diversification is not a slogan. This is what many countries have done. It shouldn't be a slogan. You have to diversify. I was mentioning Korea the other time. Korea was just, if you look at it, during this lockdown, I was doing a lot of graphs and putting stuff, which I can share with you. And all of these countries were almost at the same level as us in the 1970s up to the early 80s. Same per capita income level. What they did, they didn't have the resources we have. They didn't have oil, they didn't have minerals. All they did was to diversify their sources of revenue generation. Most of those countries started with clothing, textile. They went into leather products. They then went into moving forward, learning and growing and developing their economic and technological capability. And when you look at all those products, they are all from agriculture. You find that during the African Investment Forum of 2018, Ghana, the bank lent them $600 million to begin to develop their cocoa industry, processing, not just export raw materials. This year, 2-3 weeks ago, they were able to syndicate $1.2 billion from various sources to expand that space. So we have what it takes. So to come back to your question, we should not stop at the level of, forget about oil. We have gas, a lot of gas. And gas is the source, again, of a lot of chemicals. Beyond that, we have agricultural raw materials, which again is just waiting. We left it for the last 60 years. So and one of the things that the bank is doing, the African Development Bank is doing is also now, which I'm leading with some colleagues, is also to come and establish what we call special agro-industrial processing zones. We have gone rather far, and we are hoping that by next year, we will be building in about 4 zones, basically to expand the revenue. So when each time people talk about revenue base, they think it's only taxation. No. Governance failure is not just inability to collect taxation, but to expand our basket, to grow more industries. When you grow more industry, when you look at Nigeria, you see the same company that were there 40 years ago. In fact, some have left. So one of the success measures of economics is to be able to grow as many companies as possible. Some will die, but some will grow.
With the government hoping to revamp the power sector, build new deep-sea ports, extend the rail network to 3,000 kilometers across various regions, and provide social housing schemes, workable health, education, and communication sectors, it will require a very deep pocket and the necessary political will to make these lofty ideas a reality. A building collapse on the 12th of October 2019 in Otun-Araromi community in Lagos claimed the lives of 4 members of a particular family: pregnant wife, 2 children, and a sister-in-law. It was such a sad day. It's almost a year after the incident. The lone survivor, who went into coma for about 6 months, recounts a very sad tale that stripped him of all he had. October 12, 2019. A building collapse is reported around Otun-Araromi area of Lagos State. Though not the first time such accident will be happening, it's a major one, as one family may have lost every of its member. A fence has collapsed from a house or pier and has crashed onto a building below.
There is a house at top of this place. It collapsed from that place, the toilet and part of the fence, and landed on top of this building from the back. That led to the other building collapsed at the back and trapped 1 woman and 3 children.
The shocked residents are overwhelmed with sorrow as tears flow freely. It's been almost a year after the incident. 32-year-old Emmanuel Otache, the lone survivor from the incident, recounts an experience which claimed his pregnant wife, 2 children, and sister-in-law in one fell swoop.
On Friday night, 11th October 2019, after I came back from work, my wife boiled water for me, I eat. After eating, I fell to sleep. So unfortunately, I don't know what happened again. I landed in the hospital.
Mr. Otache, who was in coma for about 6 months, says he only got to know of his losses after he recovered.
I don't know, actually I don't know what happened, but I was told that it was serious heavy rain, that it was something 4 a.m., 3 to 4, that the building collapsed at John Olalele, the hub, at Magodo Isheli, collapsed and hit our own apartments and killed my children, my wife, and my wife's sisters. I was there at Lagos State Teaching Hospital for 6 months till July, ending of July. There's no way for me, no job, nobody to care for me. It was my church, Lighthouse Artery Center. They are the one that care for me, help me, feed me, and take me a bit.
While he may have survived the building collapse, he doubts if he can survive the trauma and the neglect and many other challenges life is throwing his way.
Whenever I feel thinking of Dominion, Daniel, and other people, I was so very somehow like in the mood of if possible, let me die, so that because I don't have any expectation in life, but thinking go back to the spiritual life to have Christ Jesus in person. That is why I just put my belief in Christ Jesus, that Jesus is the way, the life, and the truth.
He expresses gratitude to those who've kept him going and hopes the government and other well-meaning Nigerians will give him a shoulder to lean on.
Since the incident happened, I stay at home, lowering, walking around, nowhere to be found, no houses, nothing. I want justice and I want government to assist me, to put things in order for me to start my life so that I will start from the beginning again. Since I lost my entire family, my children, my wife, and my wife's sisters. So I want government to assist me to start my life again.
At the moment, Emmanuel Otache goes about in clutches, without shelter, living from hand to mouth, hoping someday he would have life smile at him again. Some sections of the oil and gas pipeline installation in K Farms Estate, also known as Chief FRA Williams Estate, in the Iju area of Lagos State, have been breached by vandals. Now, this is creating panic among the residents who fear the worst could happen if there was a fire outbreak. They're calling on the NNPC and the relevant security agencies to please step in and spare them the possibility of loss of lives and property. Our visit to Chief FRA Williams Estate, also known as K Farms in Iju, Lagos, is as a result of an impending danger which could easily obliterate over 1,000 residents here, if not checked. The looks on the faces of these residents tell it all. They are apprehensive about the activities of vandals who have turned national assets into personal property. The oil and gas pipeline that passes through the estate has been breached again. To get to one of the points, we take a trip down the swampy terrain.
Easy.
Sorry, madam.
Sorry.
On arrival at one of the collection points dug up by the vandals, there was already a substantial amount of fuel collected. This is danger at their backyard.
We stand the risk of an explosion taking place. God forbid, should the explosion take place, thousands of lives would be lost, houses will be destroyed. Because if there's an explosion in the pipeline, we all know it's even stronger than, almost as strong as a big bomb.
If you miss the stick, that place goes down small.
The residents claim that the activities of these vandals became apparent after they engaged the services of Swamp Boogie for some months to clear the thick bushes and shrubs that served as the cover for their illicit trade.
Rent some a boogie that took almost 3 months, and you know what it takes. The money we spend runs to millions of naira, So then, which we think then that the activities of these vandals might, reduce or maybe totally, totally eliminated. But then I think the thing is getting escalated day after day. Since that July that we first noticed it, there've been series of these vandals. They usually maybe come in the evening, in the night, to say by 2-3 hours, they are done.
We are absolutely concerned. Well, this is an estate of very responsible families that live here, and you would discover that we are very sensitive to the issue of abiding to the rules and regulations and the laws of the country. Surrounding these estates are various notable infrastructure, like the power line. We maintain adequate setback from the power line. If you go around the estate, you will see that the houses have maintained adequate setback from the various pipelines. Even the canal that is the subject of our concern right now, you can see how distant most of the houses are from this area. So to a large extent, there is this consciousness within the estate that we need to be very law abiding and make sure that things are done properly. And that is why when we see a threat like this, we're very concerned. And that's why we really calling on government, all the agencies of government that needs to provide protection for this estate, to please do something now. We don't want a situation whereby there will be a fire outbreak, or there will be any form of disaster. Lives and properties are at stake here, and that's why we need government to really do something now.
They also say they've made several representations to the NNPC and security agencies for intervention. They fear the worst could happen if the threat is not addressed, considering recent fire outbreaks in different parts of Lagos.
This bush was like a wall to that river, and they operate via the river. Each time they come through the river, through Alagbole area, come through the river, and they open fuel, diesel, and kerosene. So when they operate, they come with canoe. The sack they use in doing all these things about 200 kg. Sometimes they load about 20, as we are told, tie it on the canoe. The canoe will drag it to a safe place where they transload. Sometimes too, they use pipe, hose. There is this lengthy hose that we see here. The hose is as long as maybe from here to Ogba, very lengthy. Chief wrote to William Chambers. They wrote to the police, civil defense. They wrote to the NNPC, pipeline. That is in charge of pipeline. The general manager, Mosimi. That is NPSC in Mosimi. They went there 2 times, but the second day they went there and this letter was acknowledged. This same letter has been sent to Abuja.
At the moment, they're erecting security posts with the hope that the relevant authority will send in personnel to man them.
Well, government has a responsibility to provide security for its own infrastructure. So there is a need to put, security men available here, whether it's the police, the civil defense, or soldiers, because this is a major national asset that happens to be passing through this estate. So government has a responsibility to provide adequate security. We can collaborate as partners to provide infrastructure and support, but we do not have the paraphernalia of security. That belongs to government, and that is what government needs to do at this point in time.
So we are doing our best now to see how we will arrest the situation. What we are doing now is to build a security post here, which you can see, and by the grace of God, before weekend we will complete it. But having said this, we are still, you see the light here too. So what we are begging the government to do is to come to our aid.
We are calling on government to come and monitor their pipeline here. There's always a situation in which people are bunkering the oil here. So the government needs to come and put in place a security that will ensure the protection of their facility. Here we are not safe. We are not even sleeping any longer within here. So if anything should happen, untoward thing happen here, nobody within this area. And this estate is bonded by different community around. We have Ajuwon, Obawole axis, Okeira axis, and Ijuwata Works axis. So nobody can say it's allowed or is safe within here.
With the NNPC recording a steady increase in pipeline vandalism, daily loss of crude oil, as well as the possibilities of fire outbreaks, fixing this should be a matter of priority. You want to make a change in your locality? Then use the Eyewitness platform to garner the attention it requires. Just get your shots with your phone and upload to the channel's TV Eyewitness menu or platform, which is available on the channel's TV app. You can simply download the app from the various app stores online. Launch and swipe to reveal the Eyewitness menu, and then upload your videos or photos. Do add location and, of course, a form of contact so we can follow up on your story. Now let's see what you already uploaded for the week. We have various shots here on EndSARS protest in different parts of the country, and we'll begin from Badagry, where youth staged a protest against police brutality and the state of the Lagos-Badagry road. Our eyewitness says the state of the road remains an eyesore despite its international status. They claim that this has led to several road accidents and death. They want the federal government, as well as the Lagos state government, to pay them some attention. Next are shots of prayer walks across different parts of the country seeking God's intervention in the affairs of the country. This has generated a lot of interest. This video shows some persons attacking the police in Yaba, Lagos with stones and bottles. The incident has drawn condemnation from anti-SARS protesters who have since distanced themselves from the attack. We also have shots of the jailbreak in Edo State and some prisoners attempting to escape.
Come on! Yes! Yeah, so something live in DC. I'm a team, something right here.
Finally is this shot from Washington, D.C. of EndSARS protesters enjoying some Nigerian delicacy as part of the procession.
Red amala and begiri.
Now, those are your shots. To keep them coming. I'll be with you hopefully again next week. Till then, I'll keep my eyes on you.